put down your baby and pick up your eggnog? Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and we are the podcast of two dads going through the journey of fatherhood as you all listen to us do it. And Brandon, I say eggnog because it's been the holiday season. And well, before we get into anything, what is your thoughts on eggnog? Because people seem to either love it or hate it. So where do you fall?
So I am not really a fan, but I don't hate it, if that makes sense. Like, there are a bunch of other things that I would reach for before it. But I mean, I maybe have had it 3 or 4 times in my life. So
really,
I really don't. I don't really reach for it, but it's not bad. It's like a little spicy milk, almost.
Okay. Well, typically people have strong feelings, so that's surprising to me. I love eggnog, but I only like it that time of year. It's not like something I want all the time. But I also I've been spoiled a little bit. My dad always got eggnog from like a dairy farm. And then I started buying it when I got older myself and from the store, and it's not the same. It's not quite as good when you get Kroger brand eggnog
so you're talking
versus
about
the dairy farm.
non-alcoholic eggnog.
Correct. This is non-alcoholic.
I mean,
I've had alcoholic eggnog too.
Yeah, no, I'm good with eggnog. Eggnog is solid. I've had it way more than 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, cool. And my wife's not a big fan of it. I haven't had it this year though. But yeah, I only had it like once or twice this year, but it is the holiday season, and it has been kind of crazy. I know over here, I'm sure you guys have been a little bit crazy too, because with what we do for a living, we don't get a ton of time off, so you got to pack a lot into a small amount of time. But before we get into kind of all of that, let's start with a dad joke. Brandon, you got a dad joke today?
Oh, I got a funny one, in my opinion.
Okay. You lead off. I got 2. One's kind of Christmassy and one's not. Both are a little inappropriate.
Yeah, mine is inappropriate. All right, Jerry.
Okay.
Male bees die after mating. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Okay, yeah. That's basically their whole life. Honey, nut, Cheerio.
I think I've heard that one before. It is a good one.
I got a real laugh out of Jerry. I got a real laugh.
No.
Cheerio.
That's a good one. That's
you know,
funny.
I like a joke that lets
couple,
me put on a fake accent too that I'm not good at. Cheerio.
That's true. You do. We went through a stretch where we did a couple of those in a row where it wasn't necessarily like the accent, but it was like you could say it in a funny way, certain words. But yeah, Brandon, what's been going on with you guys? Obviously with the holidays, pre-holidays, during the holidays, post-holidays, what's been going on in the Banks household?
So I mean, we've been busy. And we're hitting that stretch. You told me about it, where it's feeling like we got 2 kids in the house.
Oh yeah,
and
you're real close. When he starts walking, oof.
Well, he went from like not crawling but not moving to crawling like barely, and then in the span of like 2 days. I think the last time we recorded, I said that he had just started crawling like a couple of days before that. And now he just is like nonstop going everywhere. Doesn't like to really be pent up. Wants to be on the move. And there are definitely some fun things with him in that. But KJ has been our like sweet, perfect child for his entire life. And this is more, I think, and even while he was sick, but he has 2 teeth coming in that are just like right on the verge of breaking. And the last like 2 weeks, it's been more of what you would expect, I'll say, from babies. He's had a little bit more attitude. And the cool thing about it is it seems like Bryce has turned the corner in the last couple of weeks. He still has his moments daily, but they are noticeably less than they were before.
It's like God only gives you what you can handle, right? That's like that thing, because they feed off of it.
Way more than you can handle. What are you talking about?
I know what you're talking about though. Like the one gets a little worse. It does seem like that. Maybe it's just because the other one stays at the same, so they seem better. But I definitely know what you mean.
KJ has definitely has had more attitude, and I get it. Like the kid, like he's allowed to.
He needed some attitude. He needed a little bit of attitude. He did.
Yeah, he got these teeth coming in, and you can tell it's bothering him. But he's moving nonstop, which you got to keep your eyes on both of them. Bryce, the benefit of the age he's at is, can he get into stuff? Yes. Does he get into stuff? Yes. But he kind of is understanding what like will hurt him to the point where we really would be concerned versus, hey, no, you really don't need to be messing with that. So you got a little bit of a buffer. So that's been interesting. Speaking of the Turner that he's corner that he's corn. The Turner that he's corn. That should be like the subtitle for this episode.
Exactly.
The corner that he's turned. He still is like incredibly sweet. And so we're talking about dad burnout, like you mentioned. And part of it, as we were discussing like episode topics, part of the reason I'm feeling that, you mentioned our jobs. The holidays always, like, they're good. Yeah. It's good to see family, but they suck between the job that we have on pretty much all major holidays. We got to be back to work the next day, and we're typically expecting to be fairly busy in theory. But we also we travel across the state during the holidays, so it's great to see your family, but you gotta, on my end, I gotta worry about work the next day, and on this year more than any other year. And I'm not gonna dig into this too much. We'll talk about it in the topic, but I felt it. It was like I wanted to be at home and play with my kids with the new toys that they were so excited for, because we didn't really get a chance to do it on Christmas. And Christmas, I'll be going over like our baby gear for the next few episodes, but Christmas was great. Bryce really could like recognize what was going on with Santa. And he was excited to see other people open presents. He was the present opening helper for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So he's going around and helping people open their presents, getting fake excited about what they got just because he wants to go and open another one of his. But he got a whole lot of cool stuff. A couple highlights. His favorite toy is probably, I'm recording in our basement, and he got a little kid's roller coaster by Two Step. And I was interested to see how he would like it, and he's gotten it on and off that thing like 5,000 times in the last weekish or couple of days since Christmas. So he's been having a good time. He's tugging at my heartstrings. Before I turn it over to you, one quick story. Actually, I got two things, but so I'm putting him to bed a couple nights ago, and I'm feeling it, and that's kind of why I start talking about what I just talked about. I'm feeling it a little bit like I needed a pick me up. But I'm taking him to bed. We'd already like read a book and hung out a little bit, so it's really time for him to go to bed. It's past his bedtime, and we get into his room, and he looks up at me and says, "Daddy, read a book." We'd already read one. I didn't want to read another book. I'm ready to go to bed at this point, and I'm kind of grouchy.
They always pick a long one too.
Dude, he hadn't even picked one yet. He's just saying like he wants to read another book.
Okay,
but it's like he normally goes to bed between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. It's like 9:30. Like we've been just out doing ready. Stuff. Like it's one of them days. Like, and I already done obliged him. Like we need to go to bed. And I started to say no, and he can almost like he's getting intuitive. Like he knows what's coming, and so he puts it on like perfectly. He like cuts me off before I can say no and says please. Like looks up at me and like batting his. I'm like, all right, dog, hop into bed. So we hop in his bed, and he said cuddle too. He wanted to cuddle before bed, so he wanted to cuddle and read a book. Like he hit me in my heart. So I prop myself up like against the wall, and you can tell. And this is a cool thing that I know you're seeing too. But like they try to mimic you so much, but you can see it in real time, like them. So and he's literally like, in order to cuddle with me, he's trying to set himself up the exact same way I am. So he's trying to prop his head up against the wall and kind of lean how I'm leaning. And it's a little subtle thing, but it was really fun in the moment to watch him. Like he's checking his posture, looking back up at me, rearranging himself again. And then so he gets in the spot that he wants. We haven't started reading the book yet. And I'm having a rough day. He looks over at me and just says, "Daddy, I love you." And it just, oh, man. That was the best reading of a book I've done in years. I acted that thing out so much. I gave him a big hug. But I know I'm always talking about how much he's getting on my nerves. Those are the moments that actually happen more often than not that I need to talk about more, too. Because a kid those are the moments you feel good about what you're doing and feel like you're doing something right. So I can keep talking about Christmas a little bit, but let's kick it over to you. I'll jump in when you start talking about Christmas, too.
Well, it's funny you said that. A couple of things that reminded me of really quick, Brandon, is one in the Alusky household, we have a saying, and it's called "one more book and go to bed." And the girls will yell it because that's always they want to read one more book. So I'm always like, one more book and go to bed. And then they yell it. So today we kind of did that. Peyton's like, one more book, Dad. And I'm like, okay, one more book. Because same thing. I'm like, I already read book. I'm ready to go to bed. I'm a little over it. We're cleaning the house today from Christmas. So I grab a book and I start to read. And I'm on the floor. She's in her bed. Avery's running around. And she goes, no, you come here and read. And she points like right to next to her bed. And Macy starts laughing because she's like telling me exactly where I have to sit and how I have to read it.
They're bossy.
But they are. She is. But it was funny. So that was just literally an hour ago. But I want to, before I get into kind of what's been happening, I got to tell you, Brandon, as a dad, I've been doing this now. Peyton's a little over 3. So, and I feel like, kids kind of can always surprise you. But to the most degree, almost nothing surprises you, if that makes sense. Like, right? When they do something crazy, you're like, you know what? That doesn't surprise me because everything's crazy. Well, today, I got one of those moments where I was genuinely surprised. And I, as a dad, was like, what is happening in my life right now? So, basically, we've been putting Peyton down for naps lately, but she hasn't been napping. But she's pretty good. She hangs out in her room. She'll play in her bed. She'll read a book. But most of the time she doesn't nap. So, we're kind of at the point where it's like, well, do we even keep putting her down or not? But anyways, we put her down for a nap today with her sister, and we put her in her big girl bed. And I thought she went to sleep at some point because she was being quiet. So, anyways, time comes for me to go get her up, and I walk into her room to get her up, and I'm like, oh no, it smells like poop, right? And Peyton's she's potty trained. Anyone's been listening to the podcast knows she's potty trained. She's doing really well, but she does have some issues where she gets kind of backed up. But she actually had been good this week. She just went to the bathroom. So I'm like, this is weird. And she normally does not go during her nap. She normally actually wears underwear during her nap. So I'm like, oh no.
Ooh, y'all are ballsy.
Yeah, so just wait for this. So I don't put her down typically. Macy does, and I put Avery down at the same time. Macy will put Peyton down, and I'll put Avery down at this point in their lives. So I go, and I see Peyton's wearing a pull-up. I'm like, yes, she's wearing a pull-up. Good. But then I'm like, Peyton, did you poop? And she goes, no, just pee. And I go, Peyton, did you go poop? And she's like, no. And then I'm like, I start kind of looking at her, and I'm like, something is off. And then I see a wipe in her bed. Like the wipes, like the bag of wipes that are empty.
She's resourceful.
And I'm like, what is going on? So then I go to the trash can, and I open it up, and there's a bunch of wipes that have been used in the trash can.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, oh, no. So I'm like, Peyton, come here. I'm like, did you, go to the bathroom, wipe yourself off? She's just looking at me. I'm like, let's go in the bathroom. So now I put her in the tub, and I'm freaking out because I got a bag of wipes that are empty. I got some that are in a trash can, but I'm like, where is this on her? Or is it not? She's got a pull-up on, so does she take it off and put it back on? Like, what is happening, right? Is it on her sheets? Is it not on her sheets? So I'm looking all over.
I'm honestly proud of her at this moment.
Yeah, well, it actually was resourceful, but at the same time, I'm like, what is happening, and why is she doing this? So I yell in the basement because Macy was cleaning up some Christmas stuff, and I'm like, hey, can you get up here? She's like, what? I'm just come up here. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to explain to her what's happening. She's like, what? I'm like, can you just wash Peyton and let me figure out what's going on in her room? So I'm looking in her room, and I'm trying to figure out if there's poop on stuff or, if she threw wipes anywhere in the room that are going to be sitting forever. I'm just paranoid as a dad right now, right?
That is the worst feeling.
Correct. I'm taking all her sheets off.
And you don't know where it's at. Ugh.
Exactly. I'm taking all her sheets off. I'm looking everywhere. I'm getting stuff together. Macy's watching Peyton. And then all of a sudden I go back in her room and I look up, and Peyton has bunk beds. I built her bunk beds, right? And anyone who's ever slept in bunk beds before knows there's a bed on the bottom, which is where Peyton sleeps, and then there's a top bed. But in between the bed and the bottom bed, there's slates. This kid tucked in, I'm not kidding, over 50 wipes into the slates, just like hanging, like decoration. And I'm like, oh no, is there poop on these? There wasn't. They were clean wipes, but I'm not kidding. I took a picture, Brandon, I have to show you. There was legitimate like 50. So we asked her, like, Peyton, what are you doing? She goes, I wanted to decorate. I'm like, what is happening right now in my life? So there's legitimately 50 wipes hanging. I'm getting sheets off. We're trying to get her clean. Oh, no. But I'm just like, so no, I'm trying to have this conversation with her like, Peyton, if you have to go potty, you got to tell mom or dad. But at the same time, I'm trying not to die laughing because I'm just like, what is this kid doing? So that was our nap time today. So Peyton still finds ways to surprise me, and she's just, So, but tonight before bed, that was my last conversation with her. If you have to go potty, call for mom or dad. Don't try to do it yourself. But here's the other worst part, Brandon. I thought I got it all. I thought I fixed everything during nap time. Then tonight, as I'm reading stories, Macy's cleaning up Peyton's room, because that's typically what she does at the end of the day, and she's got laundry on top of the table, on top of her table, top of her dresser, like on her dresser with all her clothes. She's got a bunch of laundry that she hasn't put away yet. She goes to grab it, and she goes, "Why are these underwear wet?" And then all of a sudden I go, "Did you put her to bed at nap time in underwear or a pull-up?" She goes, "Oh, in underwear." So Peyton actually peed, took them off, and that's what started the whole process, and then put a pull-up on herself. Like, grabbed a pull-up from somewhere in her room.
That is actually really impressive.
Correct.
Too.
Super impressive, but, like, just put them on top of her dresser. Luckily, we found them, so those are now in the laundry. But, yeah, unfortunately, I think this might be the gift that keeps on giving, and we keep finding things that she did in her room unbeknownst to us. Yeah, nap time might be a thing of the past just for our own sanity, let alone her not taking naps. So that was today. But overall, Brandon, it's been good. The holidays were good, like just like you, busy. The girls had a lot of fun. It was really fun because this is technically Peyton's fourth Christmas, which is also Bryce's fourth Christmas, which is crazy. But it was Avery's second, and really the first one where Avery knows what's going on. And it was fun. It was kind of cool, too, because they're a little bit at different ages, and there's fun things about both. Like, Peyton was really into Santa, really into, like, knowing what was going on, talking about Santa coming, talking about reindeer, talking about movies and cookies and milk and all of it. The negative part was she, for the first time, was really into presents and was, like, kind of like where she liked opening presents a lot, but then she wanted, like, another present because I think she just, like, liked the idea of presents. And that, as a parent, is really tough. Because I'm like, don't act like this, but also she's 3. So that was a little challenging at times. She was never bad. She never threw a fit or was like being super rude, but she just was like, "Oh, is there another one? Can I have another present?" Like, and it's like right after she opened one. And it's like, Peyton, say thank you. Let other people open. But Avery, on the other hand,
she got to get used to it.
She does. And Avery, and her birthday was just a month before too, so she's like really into like the present thing right now. But Avery was the opposite. She's the kid that, like, she'd open, I don't think she would even look at what it was, and just because I think she thought the idea of presents is to open and then make, like, a ooh sound. So she would do that after every single present, like, oh, like, so excited. Everything she opened, or if she helped someone open something, she thought everything was great. Whether it was a box that you couldn't tell what it was, or it was actually something she wanted. So she did great. Lots of fun. They got lots of good stuff from everywhere. Stuff that's good for parents. We got toys for them. Peyton really, really wanted a pink Ariel doll from Santa, and I think she got 7 Ariel dolls, so she's covered. Good job, Santa.
Are they pink?
She counted the one as pink for sure. So she's excited for all her Ariel dolls, and even Avery got an Ariel. And definitely some Barbies. All of a sudden, the girls are in Barbies. Like, I got Barbies all over my house after having none just in the last couple months. So, but they both did really good. Were well behaved most of the time. Got to play with cousins. It was kind of cool too because, like, for the first time, I think Peyton like went off with the cousins, and I wasn't like overly concerned. Like, she was having fun. She could be on her own, and like they could watch out for her. So that was kind of cool. And these are like some of my younger cousins or my younger nieces and nephews, not the older ones that are like 16, which I of course trust her with. But so that was fun. And then Avery did really well. But it was good. I will say that Avery's going through some 18-month thing right now where she's definitely discovered what tantrums are. And it's super obnoxious, but also funny because it's the tantrums where they like throw themselves literally on the floor and are like rolling around and like kicking and flailing, and it's off of nothing. For their own well-being. Yeah, they're just crazy. She flipped herself out of her high chair today, so that was fun. And And then Peyton, like 2 minutes later, like fell off the back of a bench and hit her head. So I was like, what is happening? All my kids are getting concussed in 10 seconds. But no, Avery, like, she's super fun and goofy. Like, she talks so much. I can't believe how much she talks. Like, Macy took a video the other day, and it's like 2.5 minutes of her just talking. And like, there's a lot of real words and sentences in there, but like some of it, you're just like, what are you saying? And she's learning a lot. She's talking a lot. She's starting to get a lot of personality. But the tantrum thing is just, it's sometimes a lot because it's just out of nowhere and off of nothing. And she just will just, the world is ending. But then she snaps out of it really quick, which is also nice at this age because then once she decides she's done with her tantrum, she's back to laughing and yelling happy while she marches because she likes to yell happy, happy, happy while she marches. So that's Avery yelling happy, marches, and then throwing tantrum. But she's doing good. Peyton's learning a ton. Like you said, they're starting to get really intuitive and like find ways. Like today, she goes, "Is Santa coming tonight, Daddy?" And I go, "No, Santa just came, Peyton. He's not coming again until next year." And she goes, "Oh, okay, maybe on Thursday he'll come." Which I didn't even know she knew the days of the week like that. But also, like, why she just randomly picks Thursday. So she just tells me that matter of fact.
Thursday was the day after Christmas.
She just, I don't know. She goes, "Maybe on Thursday Santa will come." So I'm like, I don't think so. She goes, "Yeah, he might come." And then I go, and Macy's birthday's next week, and I go, whose birthday's next week? Peyton. She goes, "Jesus," because I told her that Christmas is Jesus' birthday. So she's starting to pick up on things, and is sweet, but she's also finding ways to trick people. Like the other day, she told me she ate a green bean. Like she was supposed to eat 3 green beans. She told me she ate them, and she definitely didn't. And I'm like watching her, and she's like, "No, nobody did." Oh, okay. She's like, "No, I already ate one, Dad." I'm like, No, you didn't." And she's like, "Yeah, I did." Count. Yeah, exactly. So we got to watch out for that. But no, it was a good holiday season. They had lots of fun. It's definitely a fun time of year, and it's fun to see them with not just toys and presents and stuff, but see them with like people that they don't see all that often too, like the cousins and the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents. Peyton, like my grandmother, so her great grandmother, she calls her Gigi for great grandmother, and she was like asking to stay at Gigi's house the one day because we went there for Christmas Eve. She's like, "Can I stay at Gigi's house?" And it was also funny. Another random story, really quick. Normally when we go to my grandma's house, she sets out a bunch of toys from like 1940, because they're the toys that my dad used when he was a kid. And she brings them all out for them, and they love them. They have a blast. Well, Christmas Eve, because I think it was a little bit nicer and there's people, she didn't bring the toys out for them, and they were going to give them some gifts. The second we get to her house, Peyton goes, "Oh, Gigi doesn't have any toys here." It's like we're like just walking the house. We're like, "Calm down, Peyton." But like just she just remembered that they're supposed to be in one spot and they weren't there. And it's not like we see my grandma that often. So, but yeah, Brandon, it was a really good time. But as far as baby gear, like you said, some Christmas stuff. What's a piece of baby gear to go over this week from Christmas?
So before we do that, I got a question. Did Peyton have any like apprehension about Santa Claus showing up at the house?
No, she was all about it. She wanted to make sure we had cookies and milk out. The next morning, because only some of the cookies and milk was gone, she was concerned about that a little bit. She's like, "Oh, there's still cookies." I'm like, "Well, there's some gone, Pete. I mean, he's got to go to every house and eat all the cookies." And she's like, "Oh, okay." But why did Bryce?
So yeah, we didn't. So personally, we didn't do the SANTA thing growing up. Just in case some kids are listening, but. So I don't really have a recollection of like what you do around the holidays in regards to that. But one thing was cool to me, Kelsey like got with them and they made like the cookies and stuff like that together. Mm-hmm. We had to make sure that when Santa came, there's evidence of that, and that happened, which was not really that hard on me at all. But that was something that he seemed to be concerned that somebody was randomly showing up at the house, which I never really thought about before. But Kelsey said she had like the same kind of thoughts. But my last thing before we get into baby gear is last year we met Santa for the first time, and that was a whole big to-do, and I posted pictures of it. But Bryce, you can see him literally trying to like leave his own body to get away from Santa. He did much better this year.
There you go.
He talked. He still sat on Daddy's lap. He was a little nervous, but he told Santa what he wanted. Santa got him what he wanted. He had like a full conversation with him, gave him high five, stuff like that too. So he did a really good job with that. As far as baby gear, I did one thing from Christmas, and then the other thing was that roller coaster, and I'll start going through because Bryce got a lot of stuff. But the thing that it's been great for Bryce, he still plays with it all the time, but KJ is loving it right now too. It's from a company called Battat. It's Battat. And it's the Farm Activity Cube. The top of it is like the things that they have at like doctor's offices where you like roll the thing around the hoops and loops and stuff like that. But then you have like activities on each side of it. I think you guys have something like that at your house too. But it's always been something that Bryce loved. I never remembered when he started playing with it, but I mean, KJ will crawl over to that thing and play with him, and it's fun watching him and Bryce play with it together because they can both be on different parts, or Bryce will show him how to use it too. So that's something that, I mean, from pretty much the moment they start crawling until at least 3.5-ish right now, you can get a lot of wear and tear from it. So the name of the one we have is the Farm Activity Cube, and the company is Battat. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but Battat.
Battat. I like it. We got a lot of stuff for Christmas too that I'm sure I'll be going over for a long time. I'll give one for each of the girls. Peyton got a Bluey scooter from her aunt, which is kind of cool. She got it from Marshall's. I don't know how much it was or anything, but it's a little scooter that you can use in the house, and it's Bluey. The funny part is Peyton liked it, but she was afraid of it. And of course, naturally, Avery went over and stood right on it like 0.1 seconds because Avery has no fear. But now Peyton's ridden it a couple times and actually likes it. Both girls like it, actually. So that was kind of something fun, getting a little scooter. And then I actually bought Avery a little Dyson vacuum. Have you ever seen those little Dyson vacuums? It's the one from Kasten.
We got one.
Yeah, Avery loves that thing to death. She played with one at one of our friends' house before, and so I knew I was going to get her one for Christmas. But she literally, I think it was on Christmas actually, probably went around the house. I wish it actually sucked up something because she probably would have cleaned my whole house. She went around for like 45 minutes just using that thing.
You got to get the Dirt Devil for that, but it does a good job.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was funny because like Avery doesn't have any kid, but especially her, I feel like doesn't have the longest attention span. Like she's on to the next thing constantly, and she was playing with that for a long time, which is not like her because she typically like bounces from thing to thing to thing. So that was something it's not that expensive. I think it's $20-some, maybe $25 or something, and it's a lot of fun. And actually, Peyton's liked it too, so it's not just for the little kids. Peyton actually enjoys playing with it, maybe because Avery had it, but she liked it as well. So that's my pieces of baby gear for the week, Brandon.
The kid vacuums are something that I remember that being like my brother's favorite toy growing up. He had the kid Dirt Devil that actually worked. And Bryce has basically the exact replica of, we have like a Dyson something or some fancy vacuum. It's like a cordless vacuum. But they make the clone of it for kids. So anytime we pull out the vacuum, Bryce runs over, grabs his vacuum, and he's vacuuming next to us side by side the entire time, which is just super cute and fun.
That is cool. I think it's a good place for us to get into today's topic. And today's topic, it sounds kind of, I don't want to say like a downer because it is kind of a downer topic, but actually I think it's very important.
It's reality.
Yeah, it's reality. I think it's something that we want to talk about and address. And I think we want to talk about signs of it, ways to address it, handle it, and then, maybe kind of our own experiences that we've had a little bit with it through our own eyes. So it's dad burnout, but honestly, you could put parental burnout. It doesn't have to be dads. Obviously, this is the Dad Jokes podcast, so that's why we're saying dads, but this happens to moms just as much, if not more, than dads. So yeah, it's parental burnout is really what it is. So, what can cause, basically what is it? First of all, what it means? It means feeling overwhelmed, both physically and mentally, having decreased interest in doing things like activities, feeling irritable, having difficulty remembering things, feeling frustrated, having issues sleeping, feeling exhausted, feeling shame, guilt, and feeling detached, I think, is a big one too. You just kind of feel removed almost from what is going on. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we say parental burnout. And I think the big thing to remember is parental burnout doesn't have to be a result of your children. So it's not like, hey, I'm burnt out from being a dad, or I'm burnt out from being a mom. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you happen to be a parent, but you're burnt out, and it's affecting maybe your family life, which is just unfortunately what happens. So that's kind of what, I guess I'll go into kind of how it's affected me and different things. But before I do that, Brandon, any other points you want to make about actually just what we're talking about when we say parental burnout?
Yeah, and you are absolutely right. Or it doesn't have to relate to your kids. It can be related to outside sources like your job, family outside of your children. But sometimes it can relate to your kids too, and it can be situations for a mom or a dad where maybe you are the preferred parent, and that's a great thing for your kids. But if the kids are always crying for mommy or daddy, and you can't catch a break and you don't have any time for yourself, that's something that could absolutely affect you as well. I think the feeling of always, sometimes as parents, especially working parents, and it depends on the job that you have, but always being on, like mentally, it can lead to it as well. If you have a job where you are constantly basically being having to use your brain or being pulled in one direction or another, being a parent is the exact same thing. And so we're going to get into it, and I'm gonna have you continue after this, but you got to find the ways to take a little bit of the stress away, and also catch yourself a break every once in a while. This podcast actually helps me, and even on days where it's like, man, you feel that burnout, and it's like this is one more thing that we add to our days. When you're in the middle of it and actually doing it, it helps kind of release some of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I think, to kind of first talk about our experiences with what maybe is called parental burnout, I think myself, I haven't gone through long stretches of it other than once. I can definitely remember I'm going through a stretch of it when Avery was a few months old. She was kind of colicky. The whole impact of having two kids versus one, work, everything else, it kind of got to me. And I think I went through, I don't know, I call it weeks, maybe a month or so, where I just felt like I wasn't being the parent I wanted to be, and I felt like I wasn't like being the same with her as I was with Peyton. And that really, and I think that stressed me out more. So it was causing like a worse problem because I just felt so exhausted all the time. And I felt, like I just couldn't catch a break. But most of the time for me, because I kind of, after I got out of that, it's not so much like long periods, but I will definitely have days, and I think mine's about 99% related to our jobs. Our work can be stressful. It can be high effort, high mental capacity. Like you said, we have to be on. I'm responsible for a large number of people. And there's some tough things that happen, but also just it's hard to decompress from it sometimes. So for me, I sometimes will have days where it's hard for me to decompress, and I come home, and I have a short drive home now. So I live a couple minutes from work, so I don't have that time to decompress. So when you come in the door and you have to be on right away, that can cause problems, that can cause issues. So I think that's kind of been my experience with it, is more less the long periods of it, but definitely the days where it's like I get home and it's like, man, I need 15, 20 minutes, but it's like you don't have 15, 20 minutes. And maybe sometimes you do. And that, I feel like when I do, that actually fixes it. Luckily for me, Macy's really, really good. She knows that if I come home and she's been home or she gets home before me, if I get 5-10 minutes to take a quick shower, that helps me decompress and I feel a million times better. But if I get home before her or I'm unable to, you don't have those choices. You just gotta jump in and deal with it. But what's been kind of your experiences, Brandon?
The other thing before I even get into that is as a man, and this is the dad part of it, you almost get conditioned to like suck it up and not talk about it and or just like deal with it. So like for me, I am intentional about not bringing work home, like at all. Like I could have a bad day at work, and for the most part, I don't shoot 100% with this. I don't. Like there are some days where I absolutely, if something happened at work, I might be a little salty at home for a little bit. But I think for the most part, I'm pretty good at that. The tough part with that though is you are constantly like almost you don't have that release to a degree.
You're suppressing it, which is
correct.
Yeah. I mean,
which is what you were talking
keeping
about.
it down. Yep.
Yeah, and you need to be able to find outlets for it, or that ends up leading to the burnout. And that I think has been my experience to a degree. And I'd say I'm pretty good about almost like getting over stuff. There are definitely periods. You mentioned like you have like short periods here and there, but I'm in the middle of a long one right now. Like it started with the kids being sick, and us not sleeping, and that's one thing that just can. I mean, and we'll go into some things a little bit later, but physically you got to make sure you are doing your best to keep yourself there, and sometimes it's impossible as a dad or a new parent. But for me, it's been a combination of prolonged lack of sleep for both me and Kelsey. And that can lead to you being short with your partner. You can understand right in the middle of it, like this ain't all that deep, but both you tired and you got a short fuse, and then you get over it. But it's also new responsibilities at work, and the combination of both of those things can lead to you feeling the pressure. That you got 2 kids under 3. One always got an attitude in your mind. I know I just got the same breath. And then you got a new baby who is teething or whatever is going on. So I think part of it is having the right people to talk to. I think you and I have that relationship even through this podcast that helps. But also understanding like these are moments and stretches that will happen. And you got to be able to adjust and deal with the based on that. And understand you're going to have bad days and get over it.
And I think one thing you hit that's so crucial, Brandon, because I'm terrible at this. I grew up in, a military-type family, and we don't talk about emotions. My dad was not the guy who was touchy-feely or doesn't, he didn't talk about that kind of stuff. And so sometimes when you have these feelings or you're off, I kind of will go in, become introverted, like just kind of go into myself. I forget the exact phrase people call it, but you almost like internalize everything, right? And you don't talk about it because like I'll internally know like, okay, I'm off. I don't want to disrupt anyone else, so I'm not going to cause any issues. But instead, the people that know that's not you can tell something's wrong, and then it's this whole thing.
And it pisses you off even more.
Yes, exactly. And Macy's great like that. She knows she's like, okay, if he's being quiet, something's off. But then it's like, I don't, I get mad that she's asking me what's wrong, but something is wrong. And it's very, very hard and maybe not for everyone, but I know it is for me to kind of like express when you're having those feelings. Because sometimes like, I don't even think you necessarily understand what is going on. You just know something like, it's a lot, right? You just feel like it's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a stress.
But
it's
you
whatever.
also, it's a lot, but you are in your mind, at least this is how I am. I'm like not expressing how I really feel. So I'm actually doing you a favor this is like me psychoanalyzing myself. I'm doing you a favor for like how I really feel. You're not dealing with that. So why are you asking me what's wrong? Because I'm good.
Right.
As far as you know, I'm good. But it's not really.
Because you don't want to get really what's wrong, you say it, and then they don't like the answer of what's wrong. And
stop asking me what's wrong.
Yeah.
Even though we both know something wrong with me.
Something's wrong. It is, but you got to, like you said, you got to find an outlet, and hopefully your spouse is an outlet to some degree. But sometimes, whether it's just because we're guys or whatever, but you need another outlet too. And like you mentioned, this podcast sometimes is it because it's just, I don't know, whatever. It's a format to talk about things. So you talk about things that maybe you're just for whatever reason, haven't with other people up to that point in time. But so different ways to handle burnout, Brandon. Number one, talk about it. That's literally number one. But also, finding ways to de-escalate situations or to lower your stress level is basically what I'm trying to say. So if you can find things that are stressing you out and kind of change that, that can really help. So if work is stressing you out to the point where like it's causing so much issues, maybe take a mental health day. I don't know about all that, but take a day, or even like an early out or something, just take a little bit of extra time if you need it. And then, stop trying to like overanalyze or psychoanalyze every single thing, because you're just going to stress yourself out more. Like if you have an off day as a parent, everyone has off days. But if you focus on like your off day and like make it into like a mountain out of a molehill, right? You're just going to make it worse, because then you're going to get stressed out like, oh no, I was short with my kid today. Or, oh, I should have read that extra book. Maybe I didn't read that extra book today. Now I feel like just refocus, get yourself right, and then go back at it tomorrow. I think that's the key is you learn. As a parent, we're constantly learning. We were kids once, but we were never parents before. So every day is a new day. You're learning constantly. Find ways to be a better parent every single day. And when you're off, it's okay, but find ways not to maybe repeat the same mistakes over and over. So what other tips do you have for kind of burnout or things that they say can help with it?
Yeah, and you mentioned a few things that I had written down as well. But so even through communication, and you touched on this, is setting boundaries. And that's a conversation I think you need to have not only with like your spouse potentially, but people at your job. And sometimes that's easier said than done. You may have people who, a lot of us have bosses. Not everyone has a boss. But there is the dynamic there of you trying to establish a boundary potentially, and they might be the ones causing the stress. And so you have to be careful on how you're dealing with that. But it is important. To me, the most important thing is home. And if things are happening at your job that are affecting home, you got to be able to effectively communicate that and or know how to set yourself up for success at your workplace to try to limit or mitigate the stress that you're feeling, if it's possible. Sometimes it's not. The other thing is connecting with other dads, or so like something I think has been really helpful for Kelsey is her Reddit group, and you don't even have to participate, even though I think you should. And sometimes just reading other so there's a new dads thread on Reddit. There's a daddit thread on Reddit.
Daddit.
And it's a lot of times seeing what other people are going through and using that to help either inform, hey, I'm not the only person going through this. They say misery loves company. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it does help to know that, hey, I'm not alone in this, and like you see people at different stages of it. Using things like this podcast, like this is why we like to have real conversations, because you can see us, like Jerry's been through this. I'm in the middle of it right now. I know I'm going to get to the end of it. But you do have to keep a positive mindset as much as possible, but also use what's around you. And then one last thing, and this is going to sound like over the top, but there's an app that I have on both my watch and my iPhone. It's I don't know if they have an Android version of it, but it's called Mindfulness. And the app basically, it forces you to breathe if you actually have it turned on and pay attention to it. And that thing helps me out daily. Like I will legitimately take the time when it comes up. It'll give you a notification and it forces you to breathe for like 60 seconds. And I don't really, in my mind, I could be wrong, but I don't really show stress a ton. But sometimes you feel it. And it just helps kind of reset you and let you know. And I'm using it to focus on what's important for me. So those things, they may be small, they may be big, depending on who you are and what your circumstance is. But those have all helped me through this process.
Yeah, no, that's great points, Brandon. And I think the big thing too is you got to know yourself a little bit, right? So what works for you might not work for someone else. like I said, I know I'm a very task-oriented person, and I tend to be, as many people would describe me, a worrier or someone that overanalyzes situations. So, like, the things that work well for me, like I said, a 10-minute shower when I get home literally helps me decompress. Like, when I can make that happen, that's huge for me.
And I'm the exact opposite. Sometimes I go weeks without showering.
Nice. And the other things are exercise. So it's funny, like some people get weird about, like, you start talking about exercise, but like I've read so many things that, the benefits of being physically active, but also for me, it's, again, because I'm task oriented. When I'm working out, I'm focused on that task. It kind of makes everything else go away for that 30 minutes, the 40 minutes. So that helps me every morning. I work out, and honestly, it helps me kind of get ready for the day. And then the last thing that's really helpful.
And I'm the exact opposite. Sometimes I go weeks without exercise.
Exercising. Exactly. And then the last thing is, I think sometimes as parents and with your spouse, you get so tied up with your kids and everything going on. It's so stressful that, like, when you put the kids to bed, sometimes you're like almost like maybe you were at war with each other. There's a little bit of like, you both wanted to kill the kids, but at times maybe you wanted to kill each other just because of everything going on. So it's finding like activities and things to do with your spouse, whether it's after the kids go to bed or it's, a date night here or there, or just finding ways to connect with them outside of just being a mom or a dad. And that's worked really well. Macy's does a good job of finding ways for us to be able to do some things that kind of like takes us away from just our role as a parent. And then that helps relax me and helps me, stay calm and focus on her and feel good about where we're at, despite if our kids are crazy, then they're crazy for both of us. It's not just for me. Right. So it's, sometimes she needs it more than I need it. So again, finding different things for you, but those are ones that have worked well for me, at least for the first 3 years of parenthood, Brandon.
Yeah. And it's easy in a marriage to get into these. Basically, the points we're at right now, it's almost survival mode when you're with your kids, and you're enjoying the moments with your, like, I shouldn't phrase it as survival mode, even though it feels like that sometimes. Like, you're present, you're enjoying the moments, you're missing mentally, like, man, I wish we were still, like, I missed the 3-month-old phase and stuff like that. You're trying to be as present as possible, but sometimes you can lose, like, you can be going through the motions, to your point. And it is important to be intentional. Have you guys put a TV in your room yet? Are you still TVs?
We do have a TV in our room, but it is very, very rare that we watch a TV in our room. Although we did not too long ago, but it was probably for a bad reason. Macy had to do laundry in our room. She's like, let's go upstairs. We can just put something on while I do laundry. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
But yeah, I mean,
my point is watch a show, a half-an-hour show before you go to bed, if you can spare it.
Yeah, having, as dumb as it is, like you said, like if you have like a show you watch together, and maybe it's a dorky show that your wife likes that you don't think you'd like, but you do it. Those things matter, Like I know we both have watched bad reality television before because our wives like it, and then you get sucked in, and then it's something for you both to like talk about and have fun with.
I act like I don't like it.
Correct. You act like you don't like it, but then you actually care more than she does, and you're just looking up articles.
I can tell you about full seasons of 90 Day Fiancé.
Exactly. Yeah, your 90 Day Fiancé. I watch Love Is Blind is our guilty pleasure one, so that one's kind of funny for us every once in a while. But like you said, Brandon, you got to find ways, and it doesn't have to be big, giant things, but just a game. Play a game with your wife, as crazy as that is, right? Literally a board game. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you're both into like we have Mario Kart. Every once in a while, we'll be like, hey, let's play a game of Mario Kart, as silly as that is. It's just fun. Something different that lets you kind of like connect with your significant other outside of just being a parent.
The Banks household will smoke the Alusky household in Mario Kart.
Challenge accepted. We have some, so we'll have to get that going.
I truthfully don't know if Kelsey's good at Mario Kart or not.
Macy's gotten a lot better. She's actually pretty decent.
Going out on a limb.
I like it. The last thing I'll say, Brandon, is everything we're talking about is great, but honestly, if you have dad burnout and you're struggling to find solutions, or it's really, really affecting you and affecting you mentally, seek some professional help. See a therapist. Talk to someone, and if you don't have someone, There's no shame in talking to an actual therapist or seeking, some professional help in this regards, talking to someone, about things that you're going through. So, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to reach out to, people obviously in groups or podcasts or anything else. But if it's not working for you, or maybe it's not helping for whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with seeking out help. So I think there's a stigma around that, kind of, for men sometimes. And definitely, I think years ago, there definitely was. It's starting to get better and better. But don't be too prideful for something like that. If you need help, you need help.
And don't get caught up in a bad day either. We have bad days. You're allowed to have bad days. Like, you let the bad day be just that and move on. And I think prioritizing, as Jerry mentioned, your mental health isn't just good for you, it's good for your family. If you're struggling, reach out. You deserve the support, and you deserve the grace that you should give yourself if you're letting the bad days stack. Don't.
Yeah, no, I agree, Brandon. Anything else to add before we go into a dad joke?
I think it's time for some jokes, Jerry.
Well, my one, I'm going to have to look back up because I just shut my other computer down like a dummy because I forgot I had it on there. But I do know the first one, which is kind of wintry, Brandon. Are you ready for me?
I'm waited with bated, icy breath.
What is the difference between a snowman and a snow woman?
He has a bigger carrot.
Snowballs.
I was on the right path.
You were on the right path, but I think snowballs is a little more punny, if you will. So,
that is.
And then my other one, let's see if I can pull it up here really quick, Brandon, because I gotta figure out. I cannot believe I did this. This is a very Jerry thing to do. Close his computer 2 seconds before it matters. All right, I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see. Whoops, that's the wrong button. All right. Oh, that's right. Here we go. It's Disney related. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm waiting with bated breath, Jerry.
Brandon, you've seen Beauty and the Beast before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who is Cogsworth's best friend?
No idea who Cogsworth is, so.
He's the clock.
Oh, the candlestick.
Yeah, his candlestick.
Is his name Giuseppe? What's his name?
His name's Lumiere.
Oh.
Nice, though, Giuseppe. I don't even know what that was. It's French, not Italian. Beauty and the Beast. You kind of killed the punchline there with whatever you were doing.
I don't even know what you said.
I said, who is Cogsworth's best friend? And I said, his candlestick. That's his best friend.
Nice. You got a candlestick joke and a snowballs joke.
Yes, exactly. They kind of go hand in hand. Got it. Yeah. All right, Brandon. Well, on that note, for everyone out there, if you haven't before, please like us on all our social media stuff. Please tell your friends about us. Please comment on our posts. Tell us what you want to hear about us. Tell us about what you think. Write us a review. We appreciate every single one of you guys. Heard from a couple people this week alone. Definitely, like I said, we appreciate from you guys. And the biggest compliment you can give is to tell other people to listen to us as well. But until next time, as always, I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.